In 1904, a young William Morris opened a garage in Longwall Street, Oxford. From these humble beginnings, a motoring legend was born, MG. In 1924, the first MG rolled out of the workshops. Powered by a 35 horsepower 1600cc engine, it was built specifically for the Land's End trial. By the 1930s, MG had moved into new premises in Abingdon, south of Oxford, and had built up a healthy reputation for building exciting sports cars. This reputation was enhanced in the late 50s and early 60s when MG decided to take on the record books with their EX series of specials. '62 saw the introduction of the latest in a long line of two-seater sports cars, the MGB, influenced by the record-breaking EX181. The MGB was an instant classic and a success the world over. In 1973, the MGB was fitted with a 3.5-litre V8 and christened the MGB GT V8. When MG production finally finished in 1980, more than 1 million cars had been made. The mid-80s saw the re-emergence of the MG badge. When the I.C.E. concept car was first shown to the public, it caused a sensation. Unfortunately, though, it has never seen production. 1992 would have been the 30th birthday of the MGB. What better way would there be to celebrate this than to relaunch the MG marque? Enter the MGR V8. This new MG is the most exclusive and powerful ever built. It can accelerate from 0 to 60 in 5.9 seconds and is capable of a top speed of 135 miles per hour. The interior is pure opulence, with Connolly leather and elm burr as far as the eye can see. A car hand-built for the enthusiast. Under the bonnet nestles a 3.9-litre aluminium alloy V8. Mounted longitudinally in the engine bay, it produces 190 PS at 4,750 RPM and 318 Newton-meters of torque at 3,200 RPM. Fuel management on the MGR is courtesy of the well-proven hot wire system. Controlled by an ECU below the glove box, the injectors inject fuel into the inlet tracts behind the valves. The ECU receives inputs from the ignition switch, the air temperature sensor and airflow meter, the throttle potentiometer, the ignition coil, the speedo cable transducer, the coolant temperature sensor, the fuel temperature sensor, the 2 oxygen sensors in the exhaust, and the battery. Armed with information from all these, the ECU controls the opening times of each of the 8 injectors. The firing order for the engine is 1, 8, 4, 3, 6, 5, 7, 2, with the injectors opening in 2 groups of 4. Injectors 1, 3, 5 and 7 all open at the same time, followed by injectors 2, 4, 6 and 8 and so on. Fuel that isn't used by the injectors is returned to the fuel tank via the aptly named fuel return pipe. Inlet air enters through the filter at the front of the engine bay. It then enters an airflow meter, travels through the throttle butterfly in the air inlet tract and into the centrally mounted plenum chamber. From here, it's drawn down into the inlet manifold. At idle, when the butterfly is closed, air is fed through a bypass valve. The bypass valve is controlled by the stepper motor, which receives signals from the ECU. The hot wire ECU is also responsible for engine emissions, something very important in today's environmentally conscious climate. The MGR is fitted with a three-way closed-loop catalyst system. There are two heated oxygen sensors in the exhaust system and twin three-way catalysts. The oxygen sensors inform the ECU of exhaust gas content. The ECU then controls the fueling, keeping emissions to a minimum. The fuel management system can be checked using microcheck with the appropriate card. The diagnostic port is next to the ECU. Fitting snugly behind the engine is the 5-speed LT77S gearbox. Developed from the box used in the SD1, the same repair methods and special tools should be used when working on it. Drive is transmitted via the prop shaft to the semi-floating live rear axle. This features a limited slip differential which transmits drive to the road wheel with the most grip, helping eliminate excessive wheel spin. To put all the power generated by the V8 down onto the road, 15-inch alloy wheels are used with big 205/65 tyres. When you come to balance the wheels, only ever use stick-on weights. It's important that they should be mounted on a properly cleaned area on the inner face of the wheel. Never mount weights on the outer face. The suspension on the MGR offers no major surprises. The front suspension is a double wishbone type with Coney adjustable dampers. The main suspension components are mounted on a crossbeam which is fixed to the body via rubber insulated mountings. Mounted in front of the suspension subassembly is a 23mm diameter anti-roll bar. The rear suspension is made up of two leaf springs, two torque control arms and two Coney adjustable dampers. Again, an anti-roll bar is fitted, only this time it has a 15mm diameter and is installed behind the suspension assembly. A major consideration when designing a high-powered sports car is the braking system. The MGR is no exception. The braking system comprises of a tandem master cylinder and a direct-acting servo. The system itself is split in two halves. The primary system operates the self-adjusting rear drum brakes, while the secondary system controls the 11-inch vented front discs. If either of the circuits fail, the other will remain operational, although both pedal travel and stopping distance will be increased. Unlike the MGB, the MGR is only available in roadster form. The basic design of the hood has remained unchanged, although improvements have been made to bring it up to date. The material is now more hard-wearing and the fasteners more substantial. The hood is secured to the body by 11 bolts along the back, with 3 screws on either side holding the hinges in place. When removing the hood, make sure you put a protective cover over the boot. If you need to fold the hood, simply unzip the back window and lie it flat. Now undo the 2 fasteners at the top of the windscreen pillars and move the sun visors aside. Release the 2 clips that hold the front edge of the hood to the top of the windscreen and move the seat backrests fully forward. Now you can undo the last 4 poppers. There are 2 on each side. The hood is now ready to fold down. A new feature of the hood is the introduction of a protective cover. Both the cover and its frame are stored in the boot. After folding the hood, assemble the two halves of the frame and slot them into position. Now lay the cover over the frame and fasten the 5 clips at the back, the 2 at the front and 1 on each side. The car is now ready to drive with the hood down. If we now take a look inside the MGR, you can see it comes with a comprehensive array of instruments and a top-of-the-range Philips in-car entertainment system. When you turn the radio on, the word code appears on the display. To enter the code, press preset button 1. Now using the tuning buttons, select the first digit. When you've selected all 4 digits, press preset button 1 to store the number. If you've keyed in the correct code, you'll hear a 2-tone bleep and the radio will operate. For full details of how to code and decode the radio, refer to the information in the booklet that accompanies this program. A unique feature of this radio is the detachable keyboard, which can be removed very easily and will deter most thieves. Simply push the release key down and pull the keyboard forward. You'll find a protective case for it in the glove box. An option on the MGR is a CD auto changer. Located in the boot, it can hold up to 6 CDs. Again, for full information of how the system operates, refer to the booklet. Now, a stunning car like the MGR is obviously going to gain a lot of attention. Some of it, though, may not be welcome. Because of this, the MGR is fitted with a comprehensive perimetric and volumetric alarm system. To arm both alarm systems, lock both doors and make sure both the boot and bonnet are shut. Now press the button on top of the transmitter. If the signal's received, the hazard warning lights will flash 3 times. This is followed by the alarm LED on the dashboard flashing quickly for 5 seconds. After this, it will slow down to 1 flash per second. The alarm will now be triggered if any of the hinged panels are opened, or if the volumetric sensor detects a movement within the car. The volumetric sensor is located inside the center armrest. It's also possible to arm just the perimetric side of the alarm. With the driver's door open, arm the alarm like we've just seen. The alarm LED will now illuminate continuously. Now shut and lock the driver's door. The hazard warning lights and the alarm LED will now flash the same as before. If the alarm's tripped, the horn will sound and the hazard warning lights will flash. This is backed up by the vehicle immobilizer, which is activated as soon as the alarm is armed. Located between the boot panel and the rear trim panel, the immobilizer disables the coil, the fuel pump relay, the hot wire ECU, the starter relay, and the boot release switch. It's controlled by the alarm ECU next to it. Staying with interior features, the boot release switch is located just to the right of the steering column and will only operate with both the ignition and the handbrake on. Another point of interest is the brake fluid warning light. The bulb inside the warning light can be checked by carrying out a simple test. Release the handbrake and switch the ignition on. Now press down on the center of the brake fluid reservoir filler cap. The light in the switch should now illuminate. If it doesn't, you'll need to carry out the fault diagnosis procedure outlined in the repair manual. That's a quick look at the main features of this exciting new sports car. Let's move on now and take a look at some of the jobs you may need to carry out when an MGR first enters your workshop. The majority of special tools you'll need to work on the MGR already exist. A full list of these tools is given in service letter S24793, issued in March of this year, and in the booklet that accompanies this program. In addition to the existing special tools, 5 new special tools have been introduced. These new tools are only being made available to the 18 nominated dealers listed in service letter S24793. An updated microcheck card needed for working on the hot wire fuel management system is also being made available to the nominated dealers. Nominated dealers can carry out any work on the MGR once the normal prior consultation channels have been used. The remaining dealers can carry out any work outlined in the repair manual except where the 5 new special tools or the hot wire microcheck card are needed. Again, prior authority must be gained before any work is carried out. The MGR is different to other Rover models in that it has its own service maintenance check sheet. The layout, though, will be familiar to all of you. We'll go through a few of the jobs on the sheet and outline any important points as we go along. We'll start with renewing the coolant. Before starting the refill procedure, set the heater controls to hot. Now fill the expansion tank right to the brim. Replace the cap and then fill the system through the remote filler. When that's also full, replace the cap and run the engine for a short while. The coolant level within the expansion tank should drop below the minimum mark. You can now top up the coolant to the correct level, taking care when you remove the expansion tank cap. Let's move on now and take a look at renewing the engine oil. Oil refill is through the cap on the front of the left-hand cam cover. The drain plug is to the rear of the sump. An interesting point to note about the oil system is the remote filter. It's connected to the block via 2 high-pressure pipes. Staying on the subject of oil refill, the oil in the rear axle also needs to be renewed. This should be done when the axle is warm. There are 2 plugs in the diff housing, the filler level plug and the drain plug. Remove both of those when draining the oil. Renew the oil at 1,000 miles and check it every 12,000. Moving on, and you should be aware of the golden rule that states all catalyst-equipped cars have a plug change at 24,000 miles. The MGR, though, is an exception to this rule. In this case, change the plugs every 12,000 miles. Finally, as we mentioned earlier in the program, the MGR is fitted with Koni-adjustable dampers at the front and rear. These need to be adjusted every 48,000 miles. To do this, you need to remove them from the car. To hold the damper while you're adjusting it, place the lower eye in a soft-jawed vise. Now push the top half of the damper fully into the lower half. This will engage the valve within the damper itself. Now turn the top half anti-clockwise as far as it will go. Mark the position of the top half against the lower half with a felt-tipped pen and carefully turn the top half through half a turn. When this has been done, pull the top half away from the bottom half again. The damper is now ready to refit to the car. The rest of the jobs on the service maintenance check sheet should already be familiar to you. But remember, if you're in any doubt as to how to carry out any repair, check in the repair manual. And that just about rounds up this technical reveal on the stunning new MGR. A car not only built to the highest possible standards, but also delivered to you, the dealer, with the same level of quality. The MGR, marking the rebirth of a motoring legend.